Welcome to the Laser Cast by Laserforce Loveland. On the eve of Laserforce Internationals 2024, all was quiet and well, ready to go, but then breaking news occurred, forcing people to wake up at near midnight in order to come together and give updates about their rankings and the ongoings of the tournament. And that's just what we're going to do tonight, so stay tuned while we stay up until 2 a.m. for a good show. Welcome to the Lasercast by Laserforce Loveland. I am joined by Snuffles Sweet and Odin's Fist, and I'm Mischief. We were ready for Laserforce Internationals 2024, but some breaking news has broken out, so we're going to cover that today. We also are going to discuss the unique formats of the tournament, and end with our dark horse picks, teams that we each think will have a good chance to surge beyond the rankings they were given. How are we doing tonight, everybody?
Good.
Excellent.
So good.
It's 11:30 for us mountain folk and Utah folk right now, so we're wired, ready to go. I've already downed 3 liquid deaths. These are this is my Mischief sponsored flavor, mango chainsaw. So got 3 down.
Chainsaw
and well, that's the name of my fantasy team for the tournament. Yeah. Team Mango Chainsaw. So I'm pulling for my 6 guys. Old Man Than, don't let me down.
Oh, we get some slurping ASMR.
Oh yeah.
Can I pick Young Man Fan for my fantasy team?
You're a little late to the party.
Only if I get middle-aged fan.
I get child fan.
Breaking news.
I get senior home fan.
Syracuse just got nerfed. BEANZ was playing some baseball, I believe, and slid for a base. This is the story I heard. Slid for a base and fractured his arm or broke his arm. I've heard a lot of things. What did you all hear?
Glove, and the glove got caught or something while he was diving. Like he was diving for a ball, the glove got caught and pulled his arm one way and his body went the other.
This is why you don't play sports except for laser tag.
That's
right.
Because there's no injuries in laser tag.
Yeah, none.
Really,
Never
physical exertion right before nationals is just kind of. So like in 2019, Disco went dirt biking right before Nats and beat the crap out of his knee, and then during the tournament, so he does this really funny thing where he eats a bunch of raw garlic for his health and helps boost his immune system. However, garlic also can act as a sort of blood thinner in large quantities. So his knee was just basically internal bleeding. Like it was like a ton of bruising, but it was borderline just internal bleeding all over the place. And it was a huge mess. So don't get injured right before Nats. So
okay, I was thinking of doing it, but since you gave me that warning, I won't do it.
You can do it, actually. I give you the pass.
Okay.
Caleb tried with his motorcycle, but
you should try harder. Don't do that, Caleb.
Okay, so BEANZ is out for the tournament, basically. He may be trying to play a game to keep his streak alive. Rest in peace, hats off, heart goes out, moment of silence for BEANZ. He has been replaced by Dr. Wookie from Syracuse. What do we think about this change? How does it affect Syracuse?
I'll go first. So I think the loss of BEANZ is actually like a really big hit to the team, both like mentality-wise and in-game-wise. I think it's actually really lucky that he's still coming to the tournament. That'll be a big benefit, but initially, like, he's probably the most recent experienced player on the team. He's played so many tournaments, so many arenas, and just all kinds of laser tag recently that having him not within the game is a huge downside. Outside of his like just player skill in the game, I know Wookie has a lot of experience, but he hasn't played in a long time, and I think he's self-admitted like past his prime. Like he's a lot slower now than when he used to be playing a lot. So it's good that they're bringing in someone that has a lot of experience because this team already has like some big 3-hit power in it, and they don't need another like super top tier player in terms of like the in-game 3 hits. But obviously losing BEANZ is a big detriment for that.
Yeah, I mean, like Wookiee is definitely like a bigger name in the scene, right? Like he's
he's been around, and
he's a person that people have seen. He knows the game. However, BEANZ is just such a big powerhouse for Syracuse and always has been. Like he's always been like a very pivotal player on the teams. It's like always a big thing where it's finals, BEANZ switched to commander. All of a sudden, Syracuse is beating everyone up. And so losing that power is really going to hurt them. Like Wookiee can definitely play the game, but as far as filling in BEANZ' shoes, those are some very big shoes to fill. And I think there's some other concerns too, like playing the ramps is very brutal, and I definitely think that Wookiee will probably have a harder time holding up over the course of a tournament playing the ramps than BEANZ would. So that's also a concern as well, is how well he'll be able to hold up by the end of finals, especially coming out of retirement.
Yeah, I think they basically hit the nail on the head. I personally have never played nor seen Wookiee played, so I have nothing I can say about him. But, I mean, BEANZ is easily just top 10, if not top 5 player in the U.S. So the fact that they lost him is just oof.
Definitely big oof. I'll be the Wookiee defender here. He's definitely not BEANZ. No one in Syracuse is BEANZ. One of the big things that is a concern for the Syracuse team in general is that no one's really played extensively in Loveland except for Cody. So you have all this talent, and then there are players who are talented in their home arena and take a bit of a dip in away arenas, and there's players who are consistent across all arenas. BEANZ was like the only player and there's very few of those in the world, who's like, okay, you can put BEANZ anywhere and he's basically the same player. So I do think there's a pretty big hit in terms of who's going to be playing 3 hits, the potential for the team out on the field. But there's still a lot of options for them, I think. There's still a lot of talent on the team. So I kind of went back and researched. I have seen Wookiee play. I remember him in 2016. I think you can even find somewhere on the internet, like a news reporter came out and filmed us in the arena, and Wookiee was playing heavy, I think. Just like his reaction speed was really good. But I know it's been a while since he retired. Like I'll give credit to the idea that maybe he's taken a step down just from having not played for much for a while. But back in 2015, he played ammo for the Syracuse team here in Loveland. It wasn't... He was kind of like the bottom... kind of like below bottom half in terms of like MVP and what players were doing in that tournament. He had a pretty good hit diff. If you notice, I saw a lot of 1.52 hit diffs depending on how the game was going. Then he got injured halfway through, so we didn't really get to see the full story of what Wookiee could do in 2015 from that role. So he has experience at least. I would imagine he's playing resupply. He might not, but that's what he did last time. And if he can do that competently, other players just kind of have to step out and fill in the other roles.
Yeah. Especially, like, Wookiee has a lot of experience, and he has travel experience, right? He's been around, and he's played in different arenas, so bringing that experience into the resupply role, I think he'll still be able to fill his role and contribute to the team. So yeah, I mean, really just filling in the gaps for losing the strength of BEANZ in the field is going to be the biggest question.
I've also heard some whispers that this kind of throws a wrench into their lineup. Not that was confirmed before, but that Wookiee is significantly slower, and for Loveland in particular, running away as resupply is like extremely important. And so if you are gassed or just not really a super fast player, you're going to bleed a lot of lives going down that ramp. And I think Fox prefers ammo, so putting them together on resupply may not be ideal for this team. So if Wookiee goes to a scout role, they have multiple 3-hit players in this team that prefer to be in the front line, and one of them may have to get the short end of the stick and play resupply. I don't know much about Jackal, but I know Cody, Lenny, and Evil are all really solid scout and 3-hit players. So putting one of them on scout. They're probably all on resupply. They're probably all competent at it, but it's a detriment to take them off the field and put them into the back line instead.
You ready for my lineup prediction?
Ooh, let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
My lineup prediction is Evol Medic, Wookiee Ammo, Lenny Heavy, Cody Commander with Fox and Jackal Scouts.
I can totally see that.
I've actually heard that Fox is going to be commander.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I would love to
From
see
like-
Fox Commander.
from a good source. So unless that source is a dirty liar,
If the source is a Syracuse player, it might not be a good source.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't.
I would imagine they don't fully know themselves. Now, while I was researching Wookiee a little bit, I never realized this. I'd heard whispers of a Do Not Pass Go or Lenny Heavy, and I was like, what? I'd only ever seen him really like play ammo in his own arena. He played Heavy in 2015, and against the Detroit team that came out, he put up almost a 10K Heavy score in one of the games. The other one was a 2K, but I was like, okay, so Lenny can actually play Heavy in the Loveland Arena 10 years ago. Kind of crazy. That changed my opinion a little bit. Between that, I've heard of potentially Jackal Commander. He's a rookie, he's newer, but he's certainly got the raw skills that you could throw him out there and just say, go get him. And he should be able to do a lot of damage. And then I think Cody is an option at either 3-hit. Just because of his experience, he's shown he can do it. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but they have options.
I think Cody's playstyle is very like zone control. He like really establishes a presence and wherever he is, and I think that perfectly fits Commander in this arena. If you can control most of second as Commander and really have a lot of influence there, I think it's like probably the best skill to have on Commander in this arena. So I think there's almost no chance Cody doesn't play Commander, to be honest.
Interesting. Well, I made Sergeant Tucker a bet for a lunch that if Cody doesn't play at least 50% heavy weapons games, I owe him a lunch because I was really confident on that prediction. So, Cody, don't let me down, man.
I know he got a lot of flack for his Auckland performance, so maybe he has like some redemption streak in him that he wants to like prove the haters on Twitch chat wrong. So
I'm just thinking about Duos 23. I saw him play heavy while Simply OK played Commander the whole tournament through, so that's what I would expect he would do. But
true.
I don't know.
Playing Luke.
I'm playing Space Marines 5.
Oh, I'm playing Space Marines 4. So
Going back to the BEANZ conversation real quick, I think him still coming as a 7th player is actually huge. Like, I think I've always dreamed of having a 7th player as like a coach that comes with the team, but it is just so unjustifiable to spend all this money and go and then sit there and watch your team play games. But because of this unique circumstance, they have one of the most experienced players ever coming as a player who can't play but still part of the team and actively wanting the team to win. So while he's not doing stream stuff or whatever, he could actually be like really important to the team outside of the game to provide a different perspective from the scoreboard and a different perspective from the team conversations while not actually in the game itself. I don't know if that's the role he wants to take on in this, but I think that could be a huge buff to this team to have an outside perspective giving commentary. Like I know when I'm at a tournament, I'm getting texts from my friends back home talking about, why don't you try this lineup? I'm like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're not here. It's always so annoying. But having someone there may be a huge change.
yeah,
Oh,
it really is the dream.
it's the dream. I would love to be a coach someday. And we haven't had a big discussion as a tournament committee, not that I'm on it, but as a tournament scene about what coaching could look like, as we're not in that spot yet. But right now, BEANZ wouldn't be allowed to like go in and watch his players. But we happen to be going all out on the stream this year, so BEANZ can sit in the lobby and pretty much see everything that's happening with the scoreboard right in front of him. Might be even better. So I would love to see BEANZ be the first iteration of a Space Marines coach. I think could be a huge asset to the team.
Yeah, who's paying me to fly out to be their coach for Nats 2025?
Any more thoughts on Syracuse there? I will say we adjusted our rankings based on this change. Syracuse, for me, I dropped them down 2 spots below Finale and LAPD. Odin's Fist and Snuffles, you both dropped them down 1 spot below Five Nights at Loveland. And Sweets, I guess you don't think there's really any difference on the team. You just left them as is.
Well, I think there's a pretty big difference in the team.
No, your rankings don't reflect that.
Lower.
Yeah.
BEANZ and Dr. Wookie are literally the same player.
Same player. That's what you're
I'm
saying.
Hearing is that if Wookie doesn't come out as commander in finals and solo carry every game, then Nolan just sucks at Space Marines.
And I'll lose my bet. Yep.
And then Nolan owes me ice cream and pizza.
You can't eat
I owe you ice cream and pizza.
Yeah, well, you already do. We're racking it up. I'm gonna, like the week before school gets out in elementary school and they do a bunch of like wild stuff. We're gonna have ice cream and pizza week, and Luke and I are just gonna hang out while Nolan and Dallin go buy us ice cream and pizza.
Yeah, that's homeschooled, so I don't know, actually. That sounds fun.
This is after Nats, right? I cannot play on that. Oh, man. All right. There was another change. There was another change to the teams. Jack Rovia from the St. George Sunbeams dropped. And the Kraken from Sacramento, California, is jumping in to sub in as the official 6th player on their roster. Snuffles, do you know anything about that situation? Why you can't come?
So basically, he requested time off and everything like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, roughly. And then just this last week, they're like, hey, we can't let you have that off because other people have also requested it off. So,
well,
yeah,
that's
he got kind of screwed over by his job.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, dang. I was excited to meet him. I have some thoughts on how this will affect the Sunbeams, and I've never met Jack Rovia, I've never seen him play. So all I had in my head was, okay, this team has what sounds like a rookie offensive 3-hit commander scout kind of player archetype that's going to come out, and it changes the way you view this team, because unfortunately we rank this team as being the last place team by projection. So we had discussed in the last episode that if they can build up some of their newer talent into formidable opponents, get their rolls down by finals, they would have the strongest chance then to overtake some people in games. Now that one of their prime new rookie talents is no longer coming, I think that changes the win conditions for this team a little bit. We didn't know quite what Jack Rovia would turn into in this tournament, but I think we have a better idea of what Grak brings. So she is bringing a lot of experience. She has good 1.5K missions under her belt. She has a variety of experience and versatility in some different roles. I think particularly on one-hit roles is where she excels. More than anything, when I saw the team lined up with Grak, I at least saw more ability to move people into different roles. It's less rigid this way. I would actually be excited to see the potential of using Grak to help put Satters up in a more prominent role on the team, maybe putting her on 3-hit and seeing what would happen then. That's kind of what I saw. It's not changing the ranking for me, but it changes the way this team kind of needs to operate if they're gonna win games.
Yeah, I mean, Grak is a very capable player.
Oh yeah.
And the rough thing here is that I feel like a lot of the value that Grak can bring to a team is best utilized in teams that can at least hold their ground and allow her to set up. Which is kind of going to be my biggest concern is with Grak going to a team like the Sunbeams. It might be a little difficult for her to claim space in the field without kind of that supporting cast. But I definitely think there's a lot of potential there. Greg has a lot of experience being a Sacramento player, playing against some very strong players consistently, and has a reasonable idea of how to handle it, even if it's not, necessarily like being able to meet their skill level, at least, more effective ways to play the situations rather than something that you might get with newbies or rookies where they might feed into the situation a bit too much because they just don't have that experience. So I think in terms of damage control, she's going to be very valuable. So I think creating opportunities for players like Satyrs or Rockwood to create openings for themselves will be the biggest value that she brings to this team. But my other concern is that now they have basically 3 players with enough experience to really take charge in a Nats environment. Satyrs, Rockwood, and Greg can all take positions and lead their own way. The rough thing is a matter of figuring out how to distribute that, right? Because it can be really difficult if you have a resupply that where both players are completely fresh and not entirely sure how to respond, aren't used to the arena, aren't used to the Nats pressure. So a lot of times it can be really good to have more experience in the resupply, but then you're pulling more experience out of the field and losing things like, a really solid heavy or commander or even a solid scout that can help support the middle field. Can hurt a bit. So I'm really interested to see where they decide to shuffle their experience around in the team.
I think building off that, Grak and Sadie and Rockwood all have very different playstyles in the game, so I honestly think it's a benefit to add another experienced player in there that can make their own in-game calls both for themselves and the players around them and help out the new players, because it's a whole different perspective that I don't think the team had before. I mean, mind you, adding in a player that is not from the home site, it's going to add some volatility to the team and potentially invalidate, months of practice synergy and months of planning and stuff like that, because you have a whole new variable in there. But I don't know. I think Grak has a lot of opinions of her own that are pretty valid due to her experience, and I think that's actually going to be a plus to the team. I don't know anything about Jack Rovia and how good he was or not. Never played with him, never met him even, but I don't know if he was making as much of a difference in game. It was more about the potential difference that he had that we talked about as a rookie. Grak is more of an established player, but with her outside opinion, it's like the 5+1 now. It may actually raise the level of all 5 other players in the team, just having her there.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously it sucks that he's not able to make it out. We've been trying to get him to come to a tournament for a couple of years now. It's like he's finally able to make one, and then nope, literally right before. But overall, I think this change does make them stronger. Like we said, it's more experience, which was the biggest thing we had against this team, was just the lack of it. So I'm excited to see what they do. I don't know what they're doing as far as positions go. But I think this makes them more flexible overall, which I think will definitely benefit them. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Tim. I know Grak has struggled with health issues and stuff in the past, and I don't know what her current state is, but this arena is probably the most physically intensive arena that we play in, just in terms of the verticality of it and the amount of sprinting and ducking and squatting that you have to do here. So I don't know what her current physical state is, but that may be actually limiting to their flexibility if she's unable to do certain roles or certain positions, especially as the tournament goes on. I know we talked about that with some of the players on sewer queues and even on my team and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think it's potentially a concern here too.
That's a good point.
I think, definitely the health concerns are there. I think especially putting her in a position like medic is pretty brutal, especially with how much pressure the team is going to be under. That flushing might be really rough. I really don't expect to see any issues with playing over the course of the tournament. I think that a tournament format actually works fairly well for her if she's able to take breaks in between games and like not just play a bunch of games back to back like you might at a members night. But I definitely think that if the team wants to really draw out as much as they can from Grak, it might be a matter of trying to figure out ways to get her in more comfortable situations where she's not worrying about all these things, where she's not stressing out, where she's not overworking and overplaying herself. And talking about positions, we talked a bit about one hits, but actually I think there's a lot of potential for Grak to do something like pull out some commander games and perform against some teams. She has a lot of experience, and prior to the recent health issues, prior to the Sacramento site closing, she was actually putting a lot of effort and time into practicing and getting better as a player and improving. And she was actually having some really impressive commander games. So I'd be interested to see if they end up flexing her into possibly a 3-hit role, at least to try it out and seeing what she can do. I think also we talked before in the last episode about some players thriving better in structured versus unstructured environments. And I definitely think that Grak is one of those players that does better in a structured environment with clear expectations and her team having a clear understanding of what her abilities and limits are. Because she does have limitations as a player, we all do. And if her team understands what those are and she's able to operate within her means, I think that we'll actually get a pretty good performance there. And yeah, you might see this team taking games off people.
And I'm really hoping for that. I would love to see St. George Sunbeams take games off of people and even upset in finals. I think that would be really cool to see. My last take on all this is this makes me think back to 2017 Sacramento Nats, where Loveland sent out 4 players and we picked up the Kraken and Crypt as our subs, and we were firmly the last place team all tournament. So this situation echoes the team that we played on 7 years ago. And we were pretty stuck on keeping Grak on Medic the whole tournament. The reason was because as Lovelanders, we wanted to give our players all the experience selfishly on the field. We had some resupply players back at home, so we didn't really feel like any of us, me, Caleb, Vanessa, or Josiah, were really going to be playing that in the future. So we forced her into that role. Everyone kept telling us, put her on scout. And looking back, if we were really trying to win more games, which we were desperately, we should have definitely just put her on scout. She's not the type of player who's going to be bursting into the enemy resupply and taking out 5 players, but she is the type of player who is very smart about where she stands and who she targets and how she plays around her teammates. So I agree. If there's structure, if she has someone who can help her take territory, I think she'd be a huge asset in supporting her team in that way. I think she gets overlooked a lot, and I'd try not to take my eyes off of her on the battlefield because she'll shoot me in the back.
Oh, you can't. That's actually, I think one of her greatest strengths is she plays very well when underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most common things you would hear in Sacramento was, can somebody please push Grak out? And the reason why is because Grak would shoot people, and then she would get put down. And then nobody would want to push Grak out because all these players thought, oh, well, it's just Grak. Why would I waste my time going and pushing Grak out when I could do something else? And then Grak would stay there. And then Grak would put more people down and not get pushed out. And so environments like that where players are sleeping on her and are treating it like, oh, that's just Grak, we don't have to worry about that. Those are situations that she'll take advantage of if you're caught sleeping. So I think there's a lot of room for her to overperform in situations where people underestimate her as a player. I think it might even be ideal to try and capitalize on that if they put her as scout and try and put her in places where she can control some of the traffic of the game without it being necessarily like a standout position. Places like, sometimes back of the closet or around Baja, places that players aren't always flushing out, but still can control some of those like major pathways.
All right. Hey, let's move on to next part of the discussion. We have some interesting aspects of the tournament coming up in Loveland. We're running the tournament at night, 4 p.m. onward till projected 4 a.m. at the latest. And we're doing an interesting pod situation. We had some desire to just talk about the format of the tournament, debate how it's going to go and how we think it's going to impact the players. So want to let you guys take it away and just see where it takes us.
So go for it.
I just want how is the pods working? Because I've heard conflicting things.
Maybe I could just explain it real. Odin, go ahead.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then we can start talking about it. Explain it, how it's going to work. I thought you, Odin, go ahead.
No, I said Luke.
Oh, okay.
I said, okay, Luke, explain the pods. You're the pod master. You're Luke.
I did help design the schedule, but it's mainly Joe's baby. So basically, we only have enough time to do a full round robin and then part of a round robin. So the way we chose to do it was we're going to break into 2 pods for the second half. The pods will be based on your seeding from the initial round robin. So teams ranked 1, 3, 5, and 7 will play in one pod. Teams 2, 4, 6, and 8 will play in the second pod. And each team will play each other once. And that will determine, that combined with your original seeding, will determine your final seeding for finals. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Is the playoffs going to be double elim or single elim?
Double elim.
Okay. So, I really hate these pods. I think pods should be 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. Just initially, just like my first thought when I heard this was, wow, that's going to cause a ton of blowout games because the first place team is grouped with the 5th and 7th, and we have a pretty big skill difference in laser tag just due to the small player group that we have. So the lower ranked teams, unless something goes really miraculously well or really miraculously wrong in game, typically lose games. And we've seen tournaments before that there's not a single upset the entire tournament just due to this. And so if we group the teams 1 through 4 together, there's a lot closer games than if we group 1, 3, 5, and 7, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So this is going to cause a ton of blowouts. And then secondly, that I don't like about this is you're trying to beat the competition around you. If I'm second place, I want to beat the first place team. I don't get to play the first place team in the second group. I don't get to play them until the playoffs, and it's not going to be in the first round of playoffs. It's going to be like in the semis, or the third place team. I want practice around with the people around me. So if I'm looking at it from the perspective of a top ranked team, I only get to play my direct competition in the very first round of the tournament, and then I don't see them again until the quarter or semifinals of the playoffs, which is super detrimental. Like just looking at my own team, and this is based off my rankings. So I think my team's coming second, Inner Peace, and I think Luke's team is coming first. I play Luke's team at 2 a.m. on the first day, according to the schedule. I will not see Luke's team again until the semifinals of playoffs. So I hope I remember my 2 a.m. game because that's the only experience I'm getting against them until later on. And that's super, super detrimental in my opinion. I am not a fan of that. Then if you think about it a little further, take this scenario if I'm the third place team. And I don't want to be in the group against the first place team because I think I'm going to lose to them. But maybe I have a better chance against the second place team. I'm actively incentivized to lose games to become the fourth place team to be grouped with the second place team in the practices, because if I think I could beat the second place team, then I have the ability to win more games coming out of the second half of the round robin. So my playoff seeding is actively better if I lose games in the second round of the second round of the round robin. So we should never have a negative incentive or an incentive to lose games built into the tournament format. I really don't like that. Then if you look at it from the perspective of a low-ranked team, it's really hard to you want to, if I'm an 8th place team, I want to beat the 7th place team. That's probably the only team in the tournament that I have a high percentage chance of beating. Now I don't even get to play them. I don't get to see them. So I'm going to play against the higher seeded teams, likely going to be more blowout games, and then I'm going to get into playoffs and get blown out there too, because how the playoffs are seeded is 1st and 8th, 2nd and 7th, 3rd and 6th, and 4th and 5th. So I get one chance to play against a team that is like close to me in ranking, presumably everything goes according to plan, and then I lose the rest of the tournament. That sucks for these low-ranked teams. They don't get a chance to even they don't get a second chance. And then the last thing about this that I've heard the argument for grouping them 1, 3, 5, and 7 is, the 4th and the 5th place team, if you group it 1 through 4 and 5 through 8, the 5th place team is screwed because they don't get a chance to go into the higher bracket. But that doesn't matter, because 4th and 5th play each other anyways in the playoff seeding. So even if they became the 4th place team, they're still playing the 5th place team. Those teams still play each other. So there is no benefit to doing this, in my opinion. And when I heard it, I pushed against it, and we're going with it anyways. So is there any positives that you guys have that you could tell me about?
King.
I'm right there with you, Nolan. I actually think a lot of those points, maybe not all of them, but I brought a lot of them up in the chat. I personally was against it. I think a lot of it comes down to, like, in the end, it came down to, like, difference in philosophies approaching nationals. And so for me, my motivation has pretty consistently been, like, creating as many competitive games as possible. But I definitely think there's a lot of people who view nationals as the time to kind of, like, decide who, like, the biggest hitters are. And I think that, yeah, no, I'm not even gonna try and defend the other side. Actually, I give up. I agree. I like 1 through 4 and 5 through 8.
Okay. Well, I started out with you guys. I voted one small breaking news. I'm no longer the captain of Loveland Phoenix. I'm the Josiah is the new captain. That way I can focus on the stream during the tournament. So not much has changed, but I'm no longer in the captain's chat, but I was, and we voted on this probably 3, 4, 5 months ago. I'm forgetting. I started out 5 through 8 out of wanting the scene to grow more was my motive. I want players to get to play in close games and not get blown out. Whenever seed 1 faces seed 8 or 7, that just kind of sucks. Not that the lower seed can't win, but there's different probabilities in different sports for that kind of a thing, and this is not one of the sports where the bottom seed usurps the top seed with basically any chance, unfortunately. But then it became a difference of philosophy of, hey, this isn't a West Coast, this is Nats, people are trying to prove themselves. We did have a lot of discussion about those middle pack teams and how for this specific tournament, there's a number of teams that could end up at the number 4 spot, and so you didn't want... The way we'd actually maybe originally proposed it is once you got locked into that top bracket, you couldn't place lower than 4th. So you would be stuck in the bottom bracket if you placed 5 through 8. You'd be stuck in the top bracket if you placed 1 through 4. And there were a lot of teams that would be potentially vying for that number 4 spot. So it was between the 1, 3, 5, 7. We also threw in the idea of a 1, 2, 7, 8 bracket so that all the middle teams could fight each other. Some people liked that idea, some didn't. There are other reasons. There are other reasons for that. It's like, who are you gonna make happy? This seems like the most... It seems like the most objectively fair way to do it, but also the least fun and the least rewarding for the audience. I wish we just had time for a second round robin. But I will say this. We're very close to the tournament. It's not probably a little late to make changes, but I'm just going to say this as no longer a captain. If the captains put together a vote after seeing this video and tried to change the format of the pods, understanding that we really, unfortunately, don't have time to add more games. You have to work with 2 pods of 4. If you have a different way that you want to do it, it would take me approximately 10 minutes to just find and replace all the numbers into different slots. It's not hard to just move all the number 1s to number 4s or whatever I need to do to rearrange the pod for a different format. It wouldn't be hard. And I'd be happy to do it. It wouldn't change anything we have already about the tournament except for the numbers on the sheet. And we don't even know who's going to be in those spots anyway. So if we want to change it, I'm happy to, and the captains vote for it, I'm happy to do it.
I will sign that petition.
It's out of my hands, gentlemen.
Yeah,
We happen to have a captain in this call, so...
I went and...
It's all in Aiden's hands.
I actually went and found the poll of the captain's chat, and the only captains who voted for 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 were me and Cayman. Which
Really?
Cayman changed his after consulting Nolan. But it, at the end of all of it, when all was said and done, it was me and Cayman, and that was it. Every single other captain voted against it. So it might be a hard sell.
I just want to hear representation from the other side as to what is so beneficial about it.
Comment below.
Yeah, if you have thoughts, comment below. I think another thing that kind of frustrates me about the 1, 3, 5, 7 thing is that in my opinion, it locks in seeding. Right, because you do stagger seeding in that situation where the winner of pod 1 is first, the winner of pod 2 is second, the second place of pod 1 is third, the second place of pod 2 is fourth. And when the gaps in competition are the way that they are, third place usually is going to consistently lose to first place, and they should consistently beat fifth place. So they're just going to end up being the third seed by most normal means. And, second seed is probably going to be stronger than 4th, 6th, and 8th. So they're probably going to end up winning and end up being stuck at second. But kind of like the weird thing about all of this is that a lot, like the main point of round play is that everyone's like getting used to their teams, adjusting to other teams, figuring out the arena, figuring out how they want to play. And so teams should be learning and improving throughout the week. So it's a little weird to kind of like restructure seeds after the first round in that way. Versus like 1 through 4, there's a lot more room where maybe first seed was like the home site team, say the first seed is level at A and they have a huge advantage with arena experience going in, but second seed going into the second round or the pods learns a lot of the field and starts beating Loveland A. Doing the pod split like this cuts out that room for them to prove that they've figured it out and jump up to that first seed. Just another thing to throw in there.
Can I throw out an idea? How would everyone feel just about out of a hat, you just pre-draw 4 teams to be in pod A and the others go in pod B? It might be super uneven, but at least it's
a draft for pods. Like you take like the top 2 teams, put them in different groups, and then they take turns like drafting what team they want.
I think that
interesting.
Doing the evens odd splits is actually better than randomizing it, because you do the evens and odd splits and you're putting the seeds about where they should be, versus there's like circumstances where if you do random pods, you have to kind of decide how you want to do seeds, which it should be first in each is first and second, blah blah blah. And so if you get first and second in the same pod, then all of a sudden the second place team is the third seed, hypothetically, if everything stays the same. And so there's some like really weird things there where I feel like regardless of like logistics, it might create some like bad blood where people feel a little like slighted by the system. But
I think the intention of a format is it should be fair, first of all, and fun, second of all. And so introducing randomness into that, I think, has the potential to make it unfair. In the same way that drafting teams gives a ton of preference towards the first and second place team after the first round. So you can argue that that's fair. Everyone has a fair chance to get first or second place, but I would feel really rough as a third place team that I didn't get there, and then now I have to just suffer the draft from the first and second place teams. I think in terms of fairness, going 1, 4, and 5 through 8 is just gives equal opportunity to everyone. Except you could maybe argue the fifth place team, but they play fourth anyways, as I said earlier. So it's not super relevant. We talked about in our team rankings that a lot of these teams will have to scale throughout the tournament because they have players who've never played here before, or rookies that will have to learn how to play with each other, or teams that have never played together before, and these players will have to figure out chemistry. So I think the second round is almost more important for like determining where seeding should be for playoffs. So as Aiden discussed earlier, locking everyone after the first round, I think, is actively detrimental to the teams.
Can I play devil's advocate with you, Nolan? So if you were in charge of this, you would do the 1 through 4, 5 through A, right?
Yep.
Okay. What if you're the fifth place team and now you don't get to practice against any of the top 4 teams rest of the tournament?
And that is a consideration, but that is a consideration, and that kind of sucks because the first round you don't get to play any of them. But going into the playoffs, you get to play the fourth place team, and then afterward, I guess you'd go up. So yeah, your practice does get wrecked a little bit, but it's punishment for not getting higher seed in the first round, I guess. So it punishes one team rather than punishing every team.
I think also like like every team and every seeding spot has like a job going into a pod system like this. And fifth place team job is to prove that they deserve that spot at the top of the bottom, to prove that they deserve that chance to face the fourth place team first and bump themselves up into that top half. And that's really what the bottom half is about in a pod system, in my opinion. It is, playing these like closer games against other teams that are maybe more fallible and make more mistakes that allow the weaker teams to get some wins. But also like proving who deserves that chance at the top to face that fourth place team rather than the first or the second or the third place team, really have like a good shot at climbing. And I know there's like going to be, there's always going to be, oh, well, we didn't have a chance to climb to the fourth place seed, but like Nolan said, that doesn't change who you play against in finals anyways. And it's really just a matter of like, you didn't prove yourself enough in the first round. Now you need to prove that you at least deserve your place in the bottom half. So, it's my opinion.
Fully agreed.
Cool.
That's just whittle.
You guys want to talk about the late nights of tag?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should right after this break.
Do you want to play some laser tag?
And travel around the world? Come watch us at youtube.com Laserforce Loveland. Join the Rat Pack just like these guys did.
You guys are great. Swap him out for somebody else.
I love the people. I love the game. It's so unique, so different.
Better of a trade-off. You're trading a scout for a 3-hit.
And we're back. It's late night for us, and it's going to be late night for all the competitors at Laserforce Internationals 2024. We were just talking about the pods for the tournament. Now we're going to talk about the schedule itself, shifted from 4 p.m. start times every single day, going to late into the night. So what do y'all think of that? Y'all ready for this?
I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Like, we're recording this late at night. I'm so bursting with energy right now. Like, I'm such
good
a
for you.
I'm so ready. Like, you're gonna see a different side of me this time. It's no more 8 a.m. start Syracuse tournament BS. Okay, this is prime time gaming over here.
I'm with Aiden. I'm very excited. My brain does not like me asleep, and so I'm up super late almost every night anyways. So I'm going to be super used to it. The rest of my team, I mean, Thunder goes to bed at like 5 p.m. sharp. So that's going to be a struggle.
6 p.m. if he has some Swedish fish.
6 p.m. if he wants to go a little crazy, you know. Some of that Mormon non-alcoholic stuff.
Actually, when you guys have those late night games against Loveland, I'm actually just going to be feeding Thunder some Swedish fish ahead of time.
Please do.
Just jacked up, just
please do. That's
a little trickle on the ground.
Gee
that's
whiz.
our win condition. Is just him on Swedish fish.
Oh man, gotta
I
keep
think
him
this is
away.
gonna actually vary, like, not even just per team, but per player. Like, a lot of the people, it depends, like, how flexible their life schedule is, how used to are they going to bed early, how long it takes them to adjust to, like, jet lag and, like, staying up later and waking up early. Like, I know for myself, I am not a morning person, so game first thing in the morning in Auckland was super rough. I felt like hella groggy every time. Not having that here is going to be a huge plus for me. But I think other players on my team, like Applesauce, for example, she has a very, like, consistent schedule. So staying up late is going to probably impact her, at least early on in the tournament. And I think every team will probably have at least a couple players that are struggling more with it than others. And then I think the age factors in even a bit more. Players on my team and Syracuse have older players that probably can't adjust as quickly as like 5 nights at Loveland. They're all like average age of 10, so like they'll probably be totally fine.
White Ninja's up till 6 a.m. every morning playing Valorant.
Exactly.
They're fine.
That's actually going to be the real edge that the Sunbeams get from taking Gract. I'll be up working so late at night, and then I check if I have any friends online, and I always see Gract online on something at like 3 a.m. and I'm like, what are you doing awake?
I think energy levels also go down, so the out-of-game discussion gets a lot less discussed when you come out and everyone's tired. Everyone just kind of wants to sit there and drink some water and relax and go into like a vegetative state rather than like actively have big discussions and get all heated and make plans and stuff. They're like, we'll do that tomorrow. So I think pre-prepping is actually going to be a little bit more beneficial, whether it be pre-prepping your meals or pre-prepping plans or whatever that may be, pre-prepping how you're going to play against other teams, because in the moment prep, especially late at night, I don't think is going to be very useful.
Actually, going off of that, especially you said pre-prepping meals, I think that diet is actually going to be a really big factor this tournament, maybe more so than we've seen before. Eating in ways that allow you to have that continued energy throughout the night is going to be very important. And also, we're going to be playing very late, and a lot of food places in Loveland close fairly early, especially for people who are used to living in places where everything's 24 hours or everything's open until 2 a.m. And so some people who are maybe more used to diets that don't give you as much sustained energy, if you're not prepared right, having to go get Fat Shack right before they close and have that hold you over the last couple hours might be a little rough on your gameplay. So that's something that I would urge players to really take into consideration is if you want to make sure that you're at peak performance, make sure that you're paying attention and really carefully choosing what you're putting in your body throughout the tournament.
Got to get that brownie milkshake combo for the sugar rush for those late nights.
I was thinking of going for a milkshake brownie.
Ooh. That could
Yeah.
work.
So if I call myself old, I think I think old man Thanatos is going to have a meltdown. I am a young player,
Thanatos.
but I am 28 years old. 10 years ago, I was doing laser tag lock-ins multiple times a year. Stay up all night at 7 in the morning and you go home. And that was fun. That was nothing. Even now, 10 years after, my body is not liking it. Things have changed. And so for the young players on Finale, they probably don't need to follow all these steps or this advice I'm about to give. But for other people who may be struggling with this, adjust your bedtime before you get here, if possible. Stretch before games, rest between games, take naps, eat meat, veggies, and fruit, not bread and sugar. Yep, that's it.
I think there's also going to be a bit of a temptation to go out during the day and do things, because that will be the free time. And it may be rough to wake up at 10 and go out to Estes Park or whatever it is and do stuff all day, and then you're hitting 4 a.m. and you are falling over.
Mm-hmm. New news, actually, regarding Estes Park is that Colorado is currently on super fire.
Yes, it is.
And so the prospect of things like these hikes actually might be quite hindered. Also, the air quality has now entered favorable terrain territory for Californians. We get a +2 advantage in smoky environments.
Well, so, same with the Loveland players. They play in the arena with the smoky environment.
Yeah, we breathe it in.
Hazer practice. Oh, question, by the way. Will the Hazer be run during the day before the tournament?
Yeah, probably will. Whenever a standard game is run, it automatically happens. But it will not run during any Space Marines. Space Marines camp will be going on during the day before the tournament as well. So if there's not many gen pubs, you'll be getting not much fog. Give it a few hours and it'll be gone after we're playing.
So I'm just throwing the first match up every day, so I don't die.
Can I say something? My priorities are way out of whack. I get it. But I don't mind having just a little bit of fog in the arena so that I can actually see the lasers in my laser tag. I know it's just an aesthetic, but when I come into a Nats and the lights are almost all the way on and I just barely see what are those little cat toys where you just shoot the little laser and they play with it? Feels like I'm just shooting laser pointers at you all. It takes some of the magic away.
I love the lights, but not enough to outweigh the asthma.
Yeah,
I genuinely I Hazer turns on and I'm coughing up blood. Autumn got pneumonia.
Okay, so when we're playing against your team, that's our tactic.
Yeah, turning that up.
Hazer on.
Some people have little pocket pencils. We could have a pocket Hazer.
I'm bringing the pocket pencil. I'm dropping those on the Rams.
Every time I backdraft come third floor, I'm just gonna have a Hazer in my hand, just blowing it the whole time.
Eat my haze.
It's like the bee foggers.
Yeah,
just Hazer. You get deactivated, just run into the enemy resupply and just spray them all down.
All right. Any other comments about the way the arena arena plays, but the tournament is scheduled and how we're going to run it?
I want to talk about the 7-man team that Loveland A is fielding, and I guess technically now Syracuse.
Yeah,
that's a bit of an exception because BEANZ won't be able to actually play.
He will.
He will. Probably shouldn't, but he probably will. Loveland, though, I expect to have all those players. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know what Loveland's plan is. I've played it on a 7-man team before in the Loveland Arena, and it was way harder than we thought it was going to be. There's a lot of questions that pop up. You have are you guys doing a rotation schedule? Don't answer these questions. Are you doing a rotation schedule? Are you having a 7th player that is literally a sub until one of the 6 players has to leave or step out? If someone gets injured early and that sub steps in and then that injury is good enough by the next day, does that player get to have more games the next day and they don't enter into the rotation? When I played it, luckily, Zev or the ZZ Top, Zahiv was a day late to the tournament. And during that first day, Connor hurt himself on the notorious pencil accident. And it took Connor out for the rest of the tournament. So when Zev arrived, he filled Connor's spot, and so we actually only had a 6-man team, just not consistent players throughout the tournament. But going into the tournament, there was actually almost fist fights in our team talking about how to rotate the players and who deserves what games and who plays when. When you get into the finals, when you get into really important matches, you're all the way at the end. This is for the win. Do you guys get to pick and choose your top 6 players and someone just, sorry about it, doesn't get to play in the finals that they work to get all the way up towards? I think there's a lot of questions with the 7-man roster. And then the in-game part of it is your who's changing position. Everyone plays differently with the 7-man or with different 6-man lineups. If your resupply is changing, if your 3 hits changing, even if your scout is changing, how the 2 scouts have chemistry together, or the commander and the scout, is really important to build up throughout the tournament and practice going into the tournament. I know you guys have a ton more practice than pretty much everyone else coming into this tournament, but I still think changing that 7th player is going to be a wrench every single time that you guys try to change that player. So I'm really curious as to how your team is going to play around that 7th spot, because even if it's one of the 7 players is sitting out every single game until one of the 6 has to leave to deal with a child or whatever it may be, when that player comes in, depending where that 7th player comes in during the tournament, can really mess you guys up. And you don't want to happen like the start of playoffs. All right, now we have to sub in our next player and we're screwed. So
Interesting thoughts. I am going to answer this from the perspective of, say I'm going into a tournament next year and I'm going to field a 7-man roster, so I can speak in more generalities rather than specifics. If you're going to field 7 people, you do want to have a clear understanding ahead of time of who's going to sit in finals and what the expectations are, if we're all 7 equal players or if there are 6 main players and 1 sub, and what that hierarchy is going to look like. Because that's 2 very different types of teams. The first one, everybody is subbing in and out constantly. And the other one, that sub fulfills a specific purpose on the team for being there. Otherwise, you would just field 6. Some advantages are players getting rest games. Some advantages are being able to change up a play style, provided that the new synergy of the team outweighs whatever consistency you lost from taking out the other player that you subbed in for. Yeah, in our specific situation, Simply Okay John just became Papa John, so we've been kind of prepping all year, knowing that he may not be able to play the whole tournament. We've been kind of it's in many ways a contingency, just knowing, hey, he may need to sit out a certain number of games. So we're going to see about that. We just don't know yet. We all kind of agree that his ability to be a good parent's more important than the tournament, for just being honest, for our team. And if it comes to that, we're not going to disappoint anyone. We're going to have our full 6 and we'll play all the games. We're not going to hold up anybody. But Simply Okay John is very committed to the team and the tournament, so I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think a big benefit you guys have is you're the home site team. So the 7th player isn't spending a bunch of money to travel and stay in a place and change a sleep schedule.
Yeah.
They can just chill and do a members night. Like we had a traveling players, so the concern of, hey, I'm going to go and I'm not going to play as much games as the rest of my team is really upsetting. But that being said, you guys are fielding a B team. So this 7th player who doesn't get a lot of games, let's say, they may be like, man, I wish I just played on the B team because I'm good enough to be A team sub material, which means I'm probably definitely good enough to be on the B team as a main roster player.
Oh, certainly.
That kind of feels bad for them, but
well, you would think that, and in any time I ever traveled out to a tournament, or heck, let's say any other tournament I've ever played in besides this one, I would want to be a full-time player. I wouldn't want to pay the money and go play just to be subbed in and out. But if I'm really honest with you, if in a perfect world, I wouldn't mind just being the coach of my team and just watching them play and delivering them notes after every game and making adjustments and being kind of a puppet master. I think I'd have more fun that way, if I'm honest. And some of us kind of feel like, hey, I wouldn't mind resting so that I can be at my best, because frankly, this tournament in many ways is stressful more than it is fun. And I don't want to put a bad taste in the tournament when I say that, but there's a lot of pressure on us, and there's a lot of hard competition coming in. So some of us are happy to sit certain games.
I will say that the Stacked Pancakes roster had a similar opinion going into the tournament, from my understanding. And then during the tournament, when the stress builds up, the player that is sitting and watching the scoreboard and seeing their team lose or have a frustrating situation, they're like, man, I need to be in there. I wouldn't have made that mistake, or I wouldn't have had this problem. I need to be in that game, and we need to sub out this person who made the mistake. So then there's like a little bitty competition between the players of, oh, I can't underperform this game or else they're not going to want to play with me. They're going to want to play with the sitting player. Now, I think that roster had a lot more volatility than you guys do and a lot less practice than you guys do, so that's hopefully not a problem for you guys. But I do think that as the stress increases, the want to play the game increases as well.
That's interesting.
I wonder what those stacked pancakes players think about all that.
Guess we'll never know.
Comment below.
Comment
below. Yeah.
Well, just don't. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like there's very rough things about a 7-man roster. I think probably the hardest thing is I think one of the hardest things in general when crafting a team, because we aren't in the same environment that a lot of large scale sports are, where you go in and you have a role, like you have a specialty, like maybe you're the goalie in soccer, and that's just what you've practiced for 15 years straight, and that's just what you're good at. Versus in laser tag, because we have to do so much filling out teams, filling out rosters, and adapting, there's a lot less specialization, and so crafting teams and figuring out where to put people can be really rough, especially when we all want to perform on a personal level. And so when you feel like you're getting put in a position that doesn't maximize your personal potential, it can suck. Regardless of if that's you think you should be heavy or commander, or sometimes even scout. A lot of people can have some hurt feelings about that. And so when you're working with a 7-player roster, it's kind of worse. Like that issue is exacerbated a lot more, because now it's not just a matter of who's able to play what. It's a matter of, oh, well, who do we choose over another player for these roles, for these situations? And then it puts a lot more pressure on the players who are in the game as well. You have to prove that you don't need that player out in the lobby. You have to prove that you deserve your spot in that game in finals. And that's rough. And then, there's... so we talk a lot about mentality in the game. And with a 7-player roster, there's also a lot more room to spread blame. It's a lot easier to be like, oh, well, you weren't doing this thing that the scout who played in the last game did. And so because you didn't do that, this thing was a problem. And when you have more opportunities to spread blame, there's a lot less accountability. And losing that consistency, you lose a lot more accountability as well, because there were a lot of situations in Nats prior that I've played in where, with the 6 players, you say, the team comes to a conclusion, okay, this is the thing that probably hurt us in the game. So then you change it, and then it doesn't fix the problem. Then you say, okay, that didn't fix it. What's the next issue? But when everyone is changing everything up and there's not a lot of consistency, then that makes it a lot harder. So that's an issue.
Battle.
I also think that there's an issue with having a 7th as a dedicated sub, because, say throughout the tournament they don't play, and then in finals you need them to sub. They haven't been building that experience throughout the tournament, playing against the other teams, that really, really valuable round play experience that you get, and as well as synergizing with the team, because I can't, it's hard to put into words, but no matter how much you synergize leading up to a tournament, it's a different beast entirely in the field. You can be so practiced and so experienced with these players and know how they play, but then in Nats, you just need to work together in a certain way and need to make adjustments. And if you're not on the same wavelength as your team, if your team's making all these little adjustments on a personal level that they've had, 15 games to feel out with each other and see, oh, okay, I see, John Doe is doing this thing this game. That's interesting. That's an interesting approach. Maybe I could play this other side to support him. And then you bring in a 7th player, and that 7th player didn't see John Doe run out this certain way in the opening 3 times in a row, and doesn't know to take that different angle to support him. you're losing a lot of potential there. And there are ways where you can talk about these things, talk about adjustments and bring players up to speed. At the end of the day, it's just a lot different than experiencing it yourself. And I just had a huge rant that I went on, but
that's why we're here.
Them's my thoughts.
Snuffles, were you gonna say something a little earlier?
I was, but it was nothing of importance.
He was gonna say skibbity toilet. Oh hi.
No, not that.
He was just coming in with the Loveland so easy. Has to get it in every video.
It was something like that, but not quite. It was more shot at stacked pancakes, but
There you go.
Oh my gosh. I have thoughts about that too.
yeah, me too.
I'm curious if no one has any more thoughts on the way that we're doing this tournament, or that we're running our team, or maybe the way that we're going to dress during the tournament. Do you like my haircut? Is this appropriate and functional for the tournament? Like,
I was actually thinking you might need to get like some extensions or something, but I was thinking you should rock a mullet.
you can hook me up with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he can hook you up with how you're going to dress during the tournament. That's for sure.
Oh, heck yeah, you can. Your jerseys look sick. Check out the Interpiece jerseys.
Not what I was bringing down. Autumn and I have been creating shirts, some laser tag shirts to sell during the tournament. We have these commemorative Nat shirts. These are exclusive sneak peeks only for people who watch this podcast. Everyone else is going to have to wait to the tournament to see it. So here we have 7 designs in total. We posted 2 of them on LF tournaments already. These are 2 more. So we have this Nats commemorative shirt. It's a tank top. We're probably going to make some normal shirts too, but tank tops, it's a dry fit material. We have the Nats logo right there. And then on the back, it says, I survived Loveland laser tag with a pyramid. So that's a fun one. And then this other one I'm going to show you guys. It says competitive laser tag player on the front. Mm-hmm. And on the back, it says, ask me about laser tag.
That's a good one.
This one's just a normal shirt for wearing out.
I don't need that shirt because anytime I go anywhere with Caleb, he's always like, did you know this guy's a world laser tag champion? we were boarding a flight a few months ago, and it's like 5 a.m. and he's trying to talk to this lady behind us about it. Mm. She just gave him the dirtiest look. It was the funniest thing.
Dirtiest look?
Yeah, like just daggers.
You're a competitive laser tag
is to inspire questions, to get people to say, oh, what do you mean ask you about laser tag? What's going on with laser tag? Mm-hmm. It's sort of, I think it's a cool shirt. I'd wear it. It looks fun. But also,
I like it.
You're walking advertising for your hobby.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you don't have a portable Caleb, we use the shirt.
If you don't
I don't know if he's small enough. He's pretty small, yeah.
He's pretty portable.
That's not an issue.
And one last little preview. We're making hats. Look at that fancy.
Ooh, that's nice.
Buy it.
It goes
I'll
on
buy
your head.
that.
Yeah, and because I know the questions will be asked because they were on Facebook. We can ship. You will have to talk to us directly. We'll probably put something in Laserforce tournaments about that. And if you have a site coordinator, they probably know how to get a hold of me or Autumn because we've been in the scene. So, maybe hit them up. Or you can, look for the posts. But we can ship. It's going to be more of a personal thing for now. We don't have like a store set up. Right now we're testing the waters kind of. Depending on how well this does, we're hoping to do a lot more going forward, make more designs and build up a better online store and everything. So
awesome. Cool. Thanks for doing that. Even just taking the steps to expand the community and how people can get further invested into it. When people take the time to make the stats website, for one thing, to make merchandise that you're bringing, to make videos and podcasts like the Resupply Doer that we're doing. Like when people are like, ooh, competitive laser tag, they need places to go and things to do. How do you invest? So that's, I signed me up for all the things. Okay, Any final thoughts before moving on? Cool. Dark.
Yes, I have a final thought.
Yes.
You're a nerd.
We're all nerds. Everyone who plays competitive laser tag is a huge nerd.
That's true.
Dark horse teams. Each of us has selected a dark horse team. A dark horse team is a team that we expect has potential to place much higher than they're being given credit for right now. So, Aiden, do you have a question or a thought?
Oh, I was gonna ask a funny question, but then you actually explained what a dark horse team is, and my question is now no longer relevant.
Would you like to start with your dark horse team? Oh,
No, I actually really want to hear what your dark horse team is.
Me? Yeah, you got it. My dark horse team is the Motor City Mutts out of Detroit. I unapologetically love the Motor City Mutts, and I have decided, I put together a list, I put together a world where the Motor City Mutts place top 4 in the tournament. I have a story in my head of how things go just right for them to become top 4, which basically in my mind means that they're defeating LAPD, Five Nights at Loveland, and Syracuse in finals.
Was BEANZ breaking his arm step 1 of your master plan?
That was step. Yeah. So the upside. So in order for this to happen, BEANZ breaks arm. I like to imagine that Rhea was there in the stands of the baseball game, and she rolled a pencil out onto the field or something, and BEANZ just fell. So that was step 1. But here are my 5 conditions for how this happens. 1, Vanessa or Phantom, who has not played at our site consistently for 4 or 5 years, comes back and plays fully how she did back in the heyday, which was as a top tier 3 hit. Whatever y'all think about Strickva now, that is how we thought of Vanessa 4 or 5 years ago. She was that up and coming, fast, intelligent player who played mind games with people and could play 3 hit right up there against any of our top players. So if she can come back and just be that, and I think there's a chance she's very active as a person anyway. She's just not playing tag. So that's one condition. Lucas needs to be placed, or Blackout needs to be placed in an offensive role and given a firm support system for that offensive role. If he gets that, he's going to enable that team with his call-outs and his aggressiveness to take a lot of the attention onto himself. I think that'll be a huge asset for his team. Lil Bit and Lizzie Lizard were 2 of the people that, for different reasons, were kind of concerns. Lil Bit has never played in Loveland before, and Lizzie Lizard has hardly any SM5 games under her belt. Both have great potential, and what I've really been excited about, as I've gotten to talk to both of them recently over the last month, like a little bit with Lil Bit, she had her interview, but but Lizzie Lizard is a lifer. I think she's a lifer. She is so instantly into this sport and leading her college club into laser ball. Like, I think she is already showing up at our late night tag talks between Josiah and I and like our members, and she's getting super into it. So I don't have really much of a ceiling cap on Lizzie. And if her and Lil Bit are put into roles day 1 and are allowed to practice and establish these roles by day 4 against all these incredible players, if they can become highly competent at those roles that they're competing with people, that will be an important piece of this. The 4th condition is that Wolfie shoulders the heavy responsibility for leadership on and off the battlefield. If she has to take responsibility for playing an important 3-hit role, perhaps, and she is looking at her team objectively and making sharp decisions on, okay, I see that this needs to change, make this happen, really managing the team's personalities. And the final condition is if Stu can transfer his mobile resupply talent from Detroit to Loveland. That was literally my favorite part of Nats 2019. When I watched Detroit play in their games, Micro, their heavy, would do this thing where he'd go off and attack, and Stu and Ghosty would just go somewhere safe on the map where nobody was, and they would float around and not need to be protected at all. If Stu can activate that capacity in our arena to allow Phantom, Wolfie, and Lucas to just be pounding the enemy team, I see this team being extremely lethal and outside of the meta. That is why I think they're a dark horse team. I think if all these conditions go right, I always said they have the pieces. It's just about how they execute it.
That was a great argument.
Yeah.
I believe it.
There must be something about you Loveland players, because not even a week ago, Kayla was talking about how he thinks Sunbeams can get top fours. So you guys just really believe in these bottom teams.
I really want to hear Caleb's argument.
It's because Loveland's been.
It was crazy.
Loveland has I love you, Luke, and I love the Sunbeams. Okay, You guys have been the Sunbeams before. That's what I'm saying. They have hope. They have dreams. I've seen Loveland come out and be the Sunbeams and say, hey, we're going to beat you all. We're going to kick your butts. They got high hopes.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And they're all fire signs.
Hope can be a dangerous thing.
Luke's an Aries.
Hey.
Caleb's an Aries. They're all fire signs. They're all crazy.
True.
Very passionate. Yeah, I can see it. Okay, I was going to cut into my dark horse team, but I mean, do we have more to talk about with Detroit and your dark horse team?
No, I think
All you?
yeah, all you.
My dark horse team is Syracuse. The reason they're my dark horse team is because I personally place them lower on account primarily of physical limitations.
Yeah.
My opinion of them is that they're going to struggle going into finals, mostly because I saw Cody's performance struggle going into finals last year, and they have players like Wookie who may not be able to hold up on ramps, as well as, things like this is Jackal's first non-Syracuse Nats, and he needs to learn the field, and they're losing BEANZ, and so they're losing a lot of leadership in the game, which I think is very important for teams like Syracuse that thrive so much on synergy. However, I think that they have the power and talent and potential to do very well. I think they have the ability to place. Cody is a very strong player. He's shown up and he's beaten the crap out of people, and he's gotten points, and he's dropped nukes and done what it takes to win games. Lenny is a very good player, especially anyone who actually remembers playing against him in the field should know that he can shoot people and he can move. And they have a lot of experience. They know how to play tournaments, and they've played tournaments against insanely strong teams before, and they've come out swinging, and they know how to do it. They know how it works. They know how to adapt. They know how to adjust. So really, I think between the experience and the power that they have, I think that there's a lot of potential for them to do really well. I think that it's less likely, which is why I place them so why I place them lower. But definitely, if you just do a side-by-side comparison of raw firepower, I think they're easily competitive for the top 3 spots.
So would you say their ceiling is third?
I would even go as far to say that their ceiling is second. I think that the most likely scenario is if they play super phenomenally and come out like swinging really hard in finals. I think they take Larry.
I also had Syracuse as my dark horse pick. A lot of the same reasons as Aiden. I just think the floor of this team is just really high, even without BEANZ, just because they do have a lot of experience. And I think they have good versatility in that they have experience with like Evil and Lenny and Fox, and then they have someone like Jackal who's not as experienced, but who's quick and who's fast, which I think is important to have someone like that in this arena. So I think they have like a lot of those pieces just covered. And as well as I would bet a lot of money that we're going to see BEANZ in finals. I would bet a disgusting amount of money
Really? That's interesting.
that we're going to see BEANZ in finals. 100%.
I'll take you up on that. How about a lunch? I'll bet you a lunch.
Dude, you're going to be down 2 lunches. It's going to be so embarrassing.
Oh, shoot. All right. If BEANZ plays a finals at all, I owe you a lunch.
Do you mean playoffs when you say finals, or like
Yeah.
early?
Yeah.
During
actually,
elims.
That brings up
Elims.
a question in my head. Is as a scene, do we ever draw a line where we tell a player who wants to play that they are too injured to play? Like, is there a line that we draw where we say we're taking away your agency as a player to make this reckless decision for yourself because we don't want to be involved in you worsening your injury or re-injuring yourself in an extreme manner?
100%. I think in Syracuse in 2021, Thunder, after the infamous, Evil truck hit, Thunder was like, I'm going to play. And we told him, no, you cannot play anymore. You are, like, what's the concussion? You straight up have a concussion. And he argued, and we were like, nope, you're not playing. And then we went, yeah.
I think it's on the team and the captain mostly, like their own team, to tell them that. I don't think it's on the other players to enforce unless it's like actively egregious, like they're bleeding on the arena floor or something like that. But considering BEANZ is the captain of his team, he may have a little bit more say, but I think they all respect each other enough to tell him no.
I think one way I could see him getting banned by like a captain vote is if he has to play one-handed, and if he isn't able to do it in a way that makes it fair for him to play, then he may not be eligible to play in that situation.
Also, just like I don't want to run into him. He's gonna hurt him.
Yeah. Well, that's really my big question mark on it is it's not just your own personal health. It's also like the mentality and the enjoyability and the fairness to the players around you, because if they're having to tiptoe, there was, I had some health concerns a couple of years ago, and I was told not to get into any serious impacts. And I told everyone to just play how they were going to play, but I told my team, I was like, all right, you have to protect the egg. You need to make sure nobody's coming slamming into me. But like, it sucks to be in a position where you say to yourself, oh, I have to be really careful around this player because they're injured. And because, like, if I bump into them, it could cause a problem compared to, if I bump into Luke, it might not be an issue unless I'm shoving him off third floor.
It's never an issue.
Chamber. But so, I think also, like, player comfort around the situation comes into play too. Not that I really have a ton of room to talk after playing in a boot with an exploding spleen and everything, but
mad respect for the rest of my life for you for that tournament. His first impressions really stick,
My first impression of Connor was that tournament, me playing in a boot and Connor accidentally tripping me, and then me reaching up for his hand and him missing me twice.
Hey, it was Nats. This wasn't for fun.
I know. He was taking that seriously.
Cool.
So my dark horse team was Aiden's team, the LAPD. I think they have all the conditions to be winners. I think they could ceiling of first place in the tournament. They have an S tier player to kind of lead the team in and out of the game. They have strong players in other positions that can like really pop off and score high in game. They're really flexible in their positions, so against certain teams, if they identify weaknesses, they can swap their players around and do what they need to do to fix that. They have a home site player on their team who can give them little inklings into both the arena and to how to beat the A team, because that's what everyone's going to be gunning for. He obviously has practiced there quite a bit, and so I think he could be like a really big asset to you guys, even if he's not the best player in your team. Just his knowledge and information will be more than any of the rest of you guys have in terms of the home side arena. You guys have a ton of gameplay experience in many different arenas, so adaptability I don't think will be an issue. Chemistry I don't think will be an issue. Just figuring out how you guys are going to do. And lastly, I think you guys care. At least most of the players in your team are people who will go home and discuss laser tag for the next 3 weeks after the tournament, or pretty much all year. Like the reason you're doing this podcast is because you like to talk about laser tag, and I think at least half of your team has that same mindset. And so thinking about how to win is totally doable for you guys. I think the biggest downside to this is mentality. Not that it's a bad thing, but I don't think you guys are coming into this tournament with the number one priority of we're going to win this tournament. You guys are looking to have fun. You guys are looking to grow your players and your team. And so having that mindset, I think, could lead to some more swapping roles in the games, or trying things out, or talking differently about conversations outside of the game, or not having those really hard conversations about who's underperforming, just because you guys aren't looking to do that, which is I think could lessen your placing in the tournament. But if that's the goal, then that's the goal. But I do think the team has the ceiling of first place if that was the mentality of this team.
Nolan, what do you think is the ceiling for them?
First. I think they could get first.
All right. High expectations, Aiden.
Thank you.
Don't let Nolan down.
Glazed. Yeah. I mean, I want to comment. You brought up mentality, and I'm not going to comment on my team, but I think that I genuinely believe that when it comes to Nats, because of how serious the scene is and how much everyone here cares, I don't think that you can win if you don't go into the tournament expecting to win. I think you have to go into the tournament and say, we beat all of these teams. How do we do it? Right? Rather than, can we think of a way to do it? What's our hope? What's our, you have to say, we can do it. We have to figure out the steps how. I agree that mentality is a very, very important part in being a winning team.
It's the most important, I think.
Talk more about that.
I mean, yeah, like he said, if you're going to win something, you have to believe you're going to win. If you're just going to be doom and gloom, you're not going to perform well, because that's going to just subconsciously be in your mind the whole time. I mean, Nats last year when we won, I think we had this mentality of like we have to win. Like, we came here, we have to win. It was almost like a desperation is what it felt like. And we did manage to win. But afterwards, like immediately after we won, I remember just walking out of the arena, and I didn't even feel happy. I got hit with so much anxiety and stuff. I had to go outside. I legit had issues breathing. It was so bad, because it's oh my gosh, we actually did it. It took me a week to actually be yes, awesome, we did it.
Yeah. That release is so intense.
Mm-hmm. And I think even a mentality like that is bad. And so my mentality for this tournament is yes, we can win, but it's also not we have to,
Yeah.
There's a good balance, I think.
There's a path to victory. That's the important thing.
I think the yes, we can win mentality also applies on an individual level too, of in-game, if I'm scared of another player, I'm never going to beat them. I can respect them. I can know the skill and the talent of the other player, but I have to be confident in my ability to beat them. And if I know that I can't win the trade against them because they're faster than me, it's like what Aiden was saying earlier. I have to find the way to beat them. It's not is it possible? It's okay, how do I do it? What is the correct way to do it? Because it is possible. And I would kind of throw Luke under this umbrella of someone who I feel you said didn't play with confidence, and within maybe a year before Auckland, I think you started really stepping that up into your game, and now you are so confident in the arena. Even if there's someone that you may think is faster than you or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're still taking the trade. You're still looking to beat them, and I think it doubled your effectiveness inside the game because of the confidence that you play with now. So I think that the winning mentality applies on both a team, but an individual aspect as well.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting that you say that, because I don't feel like I feel like that's been one of my biggest struggles, is playing with confidence. In fact, I feel like I may have gotten a little worse after last year, or in my last couple years. Really, I've placed fourth in my last 4 tournaments. Like almost almost podium every single time, but always out of it. And like there's always a reason. There's a story behind the finish, a story of success for the people above me, and the story of how we could have done better. I recognize that you certainly are a better player when you play with confidence. Fear does absolutely nothing for anybody. Even if you're trying to be realistic about your chance of winning, being afraid will guarantee that you're going to lose. But coming at it, I think Cayman said this, if you're arrogant enough to believe that you can beat someone, you may actually be able to pull it off. He said something like that, and that was well said. But yeah, mentality is very important.
I'm going to give an example on this topic to discuss a point that I have. And I'm going to be outing Autumn a little, so sorry. Don't kill me. But no, I mean, Autumn's a very capable player. I'll say it over and over again. I'll bring up how Rusty came out of an arena and complained at me, and Rusty is just probably the best player in the world. In my opinion, Rusty's the best player in the world, especially after playing against him last year, where he just flexed onto every position and did whatever he could. Do you have a bunch of background noise?
No, you're fine.
Okay, sorry. Autumn's machine is doing something. So, no, I mean, Rusty is an extremely good player, and she was able to play against him. But so her ceiling's high, but she struggles in believing that she can beat players. And one of the things that I've been telling her is it's not about being a stronger player. Sometimes you need a lucky break. Sometimes, what it takes for, like say Bradley to beat Josiah is for him to get a lucky shot. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. And that doesn't mean it's not within the realm of possibility or within your abilities. It still takes you taking that shot to get that lucky shot. And so understanding that, like, there is a situation in which you win and you just have to make it happen is really like the big thing. I struggled for a while thinking, am I better than this player? Am I better than that player? And I remember I crossed this threshold because when I was still developing as a player, I got stuck in kind of a rut in this weird, like, middle ground zone where I was like a good player, but I couldn't beat the good players. And I was really struggling with that. I was like, what is it going to take for me to be a better player than somebody at the site like that? And then I stopped thinking. I was like, no, that's wrong. It's not a matter of am I a better player than him? It's a matter of how do I beat him? And then I started thinking like that, and I changed my thought process and I tried a lot of things. I tried a million things. I ran my head into so many walls trying to figure stuff out. And sometimes what it came down to is just taking chances, taking risks. If a player is theoretically a better player than you and stronger than you can go into it with a losing mentality and you're just going to lose. If you're like, oh, if I take this trade, I'm going to lose it, and you don't take the trade, you're losing. But if you say, okay, he's a better player than me, but if I do this right now, it gives me a 30% chance of pulling this off that could get me in a winning position. Sometimes you just have to take the risk. Sometimes you have to go out and take that shot and hope that you get that 30% chance. And one of the cool things about the game is that you can really like strategize around losses. You have so many resources at your disposal with things like backtracks and the fact that you have 5 teammates. You can really strategize around losing. So it's okay to say like, oh, this player is a stronger heavy than me. But if I strategize around minimizing my losses and maximizing my wins, and I can only win 1 out of 3 times, but I can get more out of that, then sometimes that's what it takes in order to win the game. And I actually have a lot of situations where I've done that. Specifically in the Loveland field, I was going through a lot of stats and matches that I've been playing for the past couple of years. There's a lot of games where I have heavy matchups, and I just get outshot to all hell. Like I lost a bunch of trades, but I won the game because I was making sure that I was looking for and creating those opportunities for myself, rather than just saying, "Oh, they're out shooting me. This game's a wash. I can't do anything." I talked for way too long. I'm very excited.
No, that's...
We got to get you on a podcast or something.
No. Why am I not talking about Lisa? Also, Luke, by the way, we were talking about stuff about you. If you want to talk sometime, I don't know if you have time tomorrow night or something, but I have some things to say about you and laser tag that I want to talk to you about if you'd be open to that.
I would love to talk, even right after this, but we got to wrap this show up.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on Nats 24?
It's going to be laser tag.
I thought that was such a great moment to end on. Yeah, we're very excited for all the teams to come out. It's going to be a great time. I really liked what Lizzie Lizard said at the end of her interview. I want to see some high-level play and some good sportsmanship. So,
not the most contentious award.
Loveland's so good.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
So hard.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
So hard. Bye.